The movie starts by introducing Tae-gu, a gangster who's well-respected in the criminal world and always succeeds in his jobs. Many mafia groups want him, but he stays loyal to his boss, Chairman Young Do-soo. In one scene, Tae-gu negotiates with an enemy boss who broke an agreement with Do-soo. The enemy boss mocks Do-soo and Tae-gu is itching for a fight, but he has to wait for orders from Do-soo. Tae-gu and his crew decide to leave the place. After that, he goes to a hospital to pick up his stepsister and niece. It turns out his stepsister just finished treatment for a serious illness. Even though Tae-gu is a tough gangster, he deeply loves his family, especially his little niece. His stepsister begs him to quit the criminal life right away because she's afraid he'll be killed by his enemies. But Tae-gu can't retire just yet because he has a lot of unfinished business. After some talking, he tells his henchmen to make sure his stepsister and niece are safe. Not long after, he goes to a doctor to ask about his stepsister's illness. It turns out she needs a donor urgently. Without one, she only has a few months to live. Unfortunately, Tae-gu is a half-sibling, so he can't be a donor. Later, he gets a call from his stepsister, but suddenly, he hears a crash on the other end of the line. Out of nowhere, his stepsister and niece have had an accident, and their lives are in danger. The next day, Do-soo goes to the funeral home to pay his last respects to Tae-gu's stepsister and niece. He tells Tae-gu that the ones who killed his family belong to an enemy gang led by Chairman Do. Tae-gu, upon hearing this, asks Do-soo for permission to take out the mafia. That night, Tae-gu meets Chairman Do in a sauna. Chairman Do says it was all a misunderstanding, and he didn't order his guys to kill anyone, especially Tae-gu's family. He promises to find the real culprits and punish them. But Tae-gu doesn't trust him. He takes out a knife he had ready and brutally takes out Chairman Do and his henchmen. Here Tae-gu's reveal his ruthless side. After dealing with them, Tae-gu escapes through a window because there are still mafia members outside guarding. He doesn't waste any time and speeds away before they can catch him. The next morning, Do-soo gave Tae-gu some money and fake ID. He told Tae-gu to relax on Jeju Island for a week and then go hide in Russia. Once Tae-gu left, Do-soo ordered his men to attack all of Chairman Do's gang alliances. A few hours later, Tae-gu arrived on Jeju Island and was picked up by a woman named Jae-yeon. She was the niece of a famous mafia arms dealer known as Kudo. Tae-gu would stay at Kudo's house for a week before heading to Russia. Meanwhile, Kudo was in the middle of selling weapons to the mafia. These weapons were smuggled inside fish that came directly from Russia. Kudo used to be a powerful arms dealer, but for some reason, he had now chosen a quieter life. Shortly after, Jae-yeon and Tae-gu arrived at Kudo's house. Kudo invited Tae-gu to join them for dinner since he had just cooked. While eating, Kudo discussed Tae-gu's plan to go to Russia. However, Jae-yeon didn't seem to like Tae-gu's attitude and asked him to leave quickly because she didn't want to deal with someone like him. After dinner, Tae-gu tried to call one of his underlings named Jin-sung, but Jin-sung was busy and didn't pick up the phone. Meanwhile, Do-soo was in a panic because his plan to attack had failed. He wanted to take control of the whole territory by eliminating all the mafia associated with Chairman Do. However, he found out that Chairman Do was still alive and undergoing surgery. There was one mafia member who managed to escape Do-soo's attack, Chairman Ma. He was one of Chairman Do's henchmen and known as one of the most ruthless mafias in Korea, willing to kill without hesitation. Chairman Ma got in touch with Do-soo and threatened to kill him in revenge for the harm Do-soo had caused their alliance. He even captured some of Do-soo's henchmen and cruelly cut off their ears one by one. The next day, Tae-gu woke up to the sound of gunshots outside the house. It turned out that Jae-yeon was practicing shooting in the yard. Surprisingly, she was really good with a pistol, hitting the target every time. Then, she played a prank by pretending to point the pistol at her head, which shocked Tae-gu, but it was already empty. Meanwhile, Do-soo met with Chairman Park, a powerful police officer in charge of dealing with the criminal underworld. He was highly respected by the mafia, including Do-soo and Ma. Do-soo asked for protection from Chairman Park to avoid being killed by Ma. However, Chairman Park suggested that Do-soo and Ma should try to negotiate first. Later, Chairman Park invited Do-soo and Ma to have lunch together and address their issues. He encouraged them to settle their differences without resorting to violence. However, Ma refused to make peace and insisted on getting rid of Do-soo. Chairman Park got angry because more gang fights would put his position at risk. He wanted to find a solution that didn't involve gang warfare to prevent the government from cracking down on all the gangs in Korea. The next day, Tae-gu was once again surprised by Jae-yeon. This time, it was more serious as she fainted in the car with a syringe still in her hand. Tae-gu didn't know what to do. Worried, Kudo told him to take her to the hospital because Jae-yeon had a serious illness. When they arrived at the hospital, Kudo informed Tae-gu that he wanted to take Jae-yeon to America for treatment. The doctor said she only had 1 month left if she wasn't operated on immediately. So, reluctantly, Tae-gu had to leave for Russia within the next 3 days. 5 hours later, Jae-yeon woke up from her fainting, but her personality suddenly became more cheerful and less sulky. She even invited Tae-gu to eat at the nearest restaurant. There, Tae-gu asked why she often practiced shooting, and she casually replied that she wanted to kill someone. On their way back to Kudo's house, they were intercepted by the police conducting a raid. Luckily, Tae-gu managed to avoid the raid and continued his journey. However, Jae-yeon had too much alcohol and was heavily intoxicated. While on the way, Tae-gu received a call from Do-soo. He was instructed to pack his belongings because Do-soo would pick him up at Jeju Island Airport the next day. What he didn't know was that the call was a trap, and Do-soo was forced to sacrifice Tae-gu to save himself from mass brutality. On the other hand, Chairman Park also agreed to the idea. They thought that if Tae-gu became the scapegoat, the Central Police wouldn't discover the affairs of these two gangsters. Meanwhile, Kudo was in the middle of a transaction with his regular mafia customers, along with some Russian mafia members. However, when the deal was done, one of the Russian mafia members unexpectedly stabbed Kudo in the stomach. He wanted to take over Kudo's weapons business and collaborate with the Russians. Feeling betrayed, Kudo shot them all, sparking a gunfight between Kudo, the mafia, and the Russian mafia. Tae-gu and Jae-yeon had just arrived at the house and joined the chaos. Kudo managed to drive away the mafia and warned them not to return. However, there was one Russian mafia member who attacked him from outside, resulting in a deadly shootout between them until both were killed. Seeing this, Jae-yeon immediately went hysteric because her only family was now dead. Frustrated and devastated, she grabbed a pistol and killed all the remaining enemies. Tae-gu urged her to leave the scene before more mafia members arrived, but she refused to abandon her uncle. Eventually, Tae-gu had to forcefully get her into the car. However, on the way, her illness suddenly worsened. Not long after, Jae-yeon's condition eventually stabilized. She then invited Tae-gu to stay at a relative's place, which was a bit far from Kudo's house. That night, they had a conversation in the yard of the house. Jae-yeon shared her tragic past, explaining how both her parents had been brutally murdered by the Russian mafia. At that time, Kudo had made it his mission to seek revenge by eliminating everyone involved in her family's murder. But now Jae-yeon felt sad because Kudo was no longer in this world. Since that night conversation, Tae-gu and Jae-yeon had grown closer. They had breakfast together and explored the beautiful streets of Jeju Island. Later, Tae-gu said goodbye to Jae-yeon as he needed to meet Do-soo at the Jeju Island airport. However, Jae-yeon had a bad feeling and sensed that something was wrong with this situation. Despite her unease, Tae-gu left for the airport as planned. As it turned out, Jae-yeon's intuition was correct. Do-soo arrived at the airport with Ma's henchmen, preparing to trap Tae-gu. Just as Tae-gu was about to approach them, he received a call from Jin-sung, one of his subordinates, warning him about the trap. Before Jin-sung could finish speaking, he was suddenly attacked by another group of Do-soo's henchmen. Upon hearing Jin-sung's warning, Tae-gu decided to leave the airport. However, Ma's henchmen quickly pursued him. Reluctantly, Tae-gu had to engage in a fight with them. Afterward, he got into his car and drove away at high speed, leading to a car chase. On the roads, their cars collided. Unfortunately, the mafia managed to surround Taegu in the middle of the road and began attacking him while he was still in the car. Through sheer brutality, Taegu fought back and eliminated them one by one. Soon after, the police arrived at the scene of the clash. Taegu took advantage of the chaos to make his escape. Meanwhile, Ma confronted Dosu for the failure of their trap. Fearing another beating, Dosu came up with a plan. He thought of using Jin-sung as bait since he was Taegu's closest friend. When Ma heard this, he was disgusted with Dosu. Ma was ruthless, but he never put his friends in danger like Dosu did. On the other side, Taegu wanted to escape with Jae-yeon, but it turned out she was at her uncle's warehouse getting some stuff. Ma and Dosu quickly arrived at the place and took Jae-yeon hostage. Ma then called Taegu and told him to surrender within an hour, or he would harm Jin-sung and Jae-yeon. Before Taegu went to the place, Ma allowed Jae-yeon to talk to him. She asked him to leave because Ma would surely hurt him. She was willing to sacrifice herself, especially since she had only a month left to live. Taegu, on the other hand, was determined to go. He didn't want to be like Dosu, selfish and cowardly. While waiting for Taegu, Ma tried to talk to Jae-yeon because he used to be under Kudo when she was a child. Meanwhile, Taegu finally reached his destination and was immediately attacked by the mafia, further injuring himself. They brought Taegu in front of Ma, and Taegu asked Ma to keep his promise to let Jin-sung and Jae-yeon go. But it turned out that Jin-sung had been killed on the way there, and Dosu was responsible for it. Ma got really angry because he hated people who broke promises. Taegu also lost control in front of his old boss. Dosu, not happy with the scolding, suddenly attacked Taegu and started beating him up. But once again, Ma stepped in to stop Dosu from going off track. He beat Dosu until he fell to the ground. Then Ma told Taegu that Dosu was behind the deaths of his sister and niece. Not only that, Dosu falsely accused Chairman Do's gang and Ma's gang of trying to take over the whole city. Besides wanting power, Dosu also wanted Taegu as his right-hand man because he heard that Chairman Do wanted to recruit him. When Taegu heard this, he attacked Dosu savagely because he couldn't forgive the man who had killed his family. Ma allowed Taegu to release his anger. Later on, Ma told his guys to give a knife to Dosu so he could defend himself. The deal with Chairman Park was that Dosu shouldn't die. But when Taegu stabbed him with the knife, he got even more furious. So Ma had his guys stab Taegu from behind. Ma actually wanted to save Taegu and kill Dosu, but he had an agreement with Chairman Park. Also, Taegu had killed his guys and almost killed Chairman Do. So in the end, Ma had to kill Taegu. Seeing Taegu like that made Jae-yeon really sad. Meanwhile, Dosu got up and put the knife against Taegu's throat. He also wanted to kill Jae-yeon, but Ma stopped him because he promised Taegu he'd let her go. The mafia then took Jae-yeon away and set fire to the warehouse, with Taegu's body inside. The next day, Jae-yeon decided it was time to get back at Ma, Dosu, and all the mafia who had betrayed Taegu. By chance, the mafia were throwing a party, and Jae-yeon boldly walked in on her own. At the entrance, one of the mafia guys teased her, but out of nowhere, Jae-yeon shot him. After taking down many gangsters, she also killed Ma, Dosu, and all the remaining mafia members. She made sure to give Dosu extra shots until his body was beyond recognition. In the end of the movie, Jae-yeon stood by the sea with a faint smile. She hoped her revenge had made up for all the suffering Taegu and she had gone through. And that's how the movie ended. Moral lesson from the story: even the most fearsome gangsters can realize that family comes before everything else. But remember, empty pistol pranks can have surprisingly explosive results.